Sup, you Eurovision fools, it's Matt, ESC United, your favorite Eurovision channel. Welcome to another episode of Mattitude, the ESC United live stream where we talk about, you guessed it right, Eurovision, and boy has this been a week. First of all, I hope y'all had a good week. I certainly did not. No, I'm kidding. I had a pretty decent week, but a lot has happened, and I want to delve right into it. But first of all, thank you everyone who is joining us in the chat. There is Tasha Lulu. Hello there, Emmanuel Z, and I see some people's name that I cannot pronounce, but there is Connor Wells, there is My Eurovision TV. Thank you everyone for joining, and I think we should delve right into it. We got a lot to talk about. In case this is the first time you're listening, welcome. Welcome, where have you been? But we're going to talk about the news. I will give you a quick overview of what has transpired. Then I will share my thought. And then it's time for you to share your thoughts by posting in the chat at ESC United. Make sure you do that so I know you're talking to me. And there are a lot of questions and I cannot get to them all. But if you keep posting, maybe I will. Of course, super chats are always being answered first. I also want to thank everyone for the support for our channel here. Whether you subscribe to it and you share and like it, this always goes a long way. A big shout out, by the way, to Patrick Schwind. I hope I did say that right. He became our newest member here on YouTube. So if you want to support this channel, you can do so by becoming a member and you get access to extra perks here as well. And of course, you help us keep going. But as said, as long as you share our content, that is all we can ask for. So let's dive right into it because we got a lot to talk about, and in the very end, of course, we're going to have an open Q&A session, so you will be able to ask those. So hold those questions for the very end, so we don't get all confused with the current topic at hand. So let's talk about the issue that I think we're talking about the past 24 hours, the biggest news of the week, and arguably maybe the biggest news of the year. Maybe not, but they are certainly significant. So let's back up real quick and talk about what happened. So it is obviously, let's go back here in terms of what happens with Belarus at Eurovision and how this all ended up where we are right now. So it was on March 9th, actually, so just a couple of weeks ago, a little bit more than. So the broadcaster in Belarus, BTRC, they confirmed already a band right away. And, well, right away, it was basically closer to the deadline, but you get my point. The name was Belarus Is, and they were said to represent Belarus at Eurovision, and they had a song ready. It was submitted, and as a matter of fact, was put on the actual Eurovision.tv page. And interestingly enough, it was called, first of all, Yau Nauchu Tebia. And the song, though, immediately by a lot of fans, raised a lot of red flags for many different reasons. And I think just to head back is within hours, actually, people created a change.org petition because due to the very controversial lyrics, which were interpreted at least as celebrating political oppression and slavery. And this has a lot to do with what's been going on in Belarus and the protests. And we here at ESC United also made a statement that we would not report on the country and the song in its current state, as it just is a line that has been crossed. And then I think less than 24 hours later, the EBU actually released a statement saying that due to the political nature of the song and it did not follow the rules, therefore Belarus had to actually submit a new song. But they were giving the option to resubmit the song and change the lyrics of the song, or select a completely different song, but were advised that if they failed to do so, that this would result in a disqualification from the contest. So finally, yesterday on March 26th, the EBU released a statement, and it was maybe not as a huge surprise, but it certainly was not completely Sure, I'm going to read it to you. It's on the screen. On Wednesday, March 10th, we wrote that the broadcaster BTRC, which is responsible for Belarus' entry for the Eurovision Song Contest, to request that they take all steps necessary to amend their entry to this year's event to ensure that it is compliant with the rules of the competition. Following this, BTRC submitted a new song by the same artists within an agreed time frame. The EBU and the reference group, the contest's governing board, carefully scrutinized the new entry to assess its eligibility to compete. It was concluded that the new submission was also in breach of the rules of the competition that ensure the contest is not instrumentalized or brought into disrepute. As BTRC have failed to submit an eligible entry within the extended deadline, regrettably, Belarus will not be participating in the 65th Eurovision Song Contest in May. So that was the statement that was released yesterday. I also put forward a short video just to breaking news, and that I would talk about this in a little bit more detail today. So let's talk about that. So in a nutshell, Belarus will not be at Eurovision 2021. So we're down initially from 41 to 40 because Armenia withdrew, and now Belarus being disqualified, we are down to 39 countries, and that most likely will be the final number. It's a little lower than what we're used to, but these are very unique circumstances. Now, in terms of Belarus' song, it was initially not clear, what rules were broken, but shortly after all of this was made public, the Belarusian broadcaster put the video on YouTube, and of course, people translated it fairly quickly, and therefore it actually became very clear what was wrong. Now, we will not share the video because, we don't want to put it out there, but I can read you the translated lyrics real quick here. So you just have an idea exactly what it means. Keep in mind, it's initially be a little confusing and ominous, but I'll give you more context. So the lyrics kind of are saying the following. A bunny ran across the field, singing a song. Crown swayed merrily in the wind. Mood okay, no pressure. Dreamed and fell into a foxhole. Bunny, you are still a boy. You can see the hidden stones under the water. Bunny, here it is, an affair. The song is good. You are just tastier. The fox walks across the field, well fed, happy, sings the bunny song La La on a visit to sing a song under a table. But suddenly, what is it? Here it is, the loop. And then fox, you're not be a sister. Let not be a sister. There are more important sisters in your family. Fox, stop freaking out. The song is beautiful. The collar is more necessary. Chickens scurry around the yard. Piglets run. Music unknown. Passion unknown. There's only one dream. People have dinner. How not to get on the table first? Bunny, you are still a boy. Learn from chickens. Reason to mind. Fox, you are my sister. And what is the song about? I don't understand. So this is a very it makes, if you don't know what's going on, makes no sense. No one would write such lyrics and think this is poetic, blah, 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 blah. But the EBU saw through it right away. Everyone saw through it right away. Of course, the word bunny is being used a whole lot in the song, and the bunny basically represents the Belarusian people that were protesting, so the protesters. Those is basically what they mean. And the term fox, another word that has been used a lot, is basically Svetlana Tsikhanouskaya. I'm always butchering the last name, but basically she is a human rights activist and ran against the Belarusian president Lukashenko a few months ago, and she is basically the face of the opposition, right? So they are using that as well. Also, people are interpreting that the words like chicken and piglets are representing whether it's the EBU or everybody else in Europe, the Eurovision fans. So it certainly is quite distracting and confusing, because if you think about they're talking about how they're singing a song, la la la, during those very difficult times in Belarus. the people, the opposition, they found some kind of solace in writing protest music, and it became such an empowering and important piece and part of their movement. And so they are ridiculing and making fun of it. And it is just a very, if read the lyrics for yourself and then replace the word fox, as I mentioned, and the word bunny, and then it becomes really, really disturbing. And there are other parts that especially made me kind of like gasp almost. The song is beautiful, the collar is more necessary. So a collar, as you know, like you hold a dog. So it is so. I mean, come on. I don't know what else. This is actually worse than the first song, I want to say. It's like they had no problem sending. I don't know if they didn't think we would get it or they just didn't care. I don't know. But this is obviously the EBU, in my view, made absolutely the right call. And they went above and beyond to give Belarus another shot and a fair shot to fix it. They didn't have to extend the deadline for them. They didn't. They could just be like, get out for this year. This is not cool. No. They tried, hey, please give us something that we can work with. This is just so blatantly inappropriate. And sure enough, they worked for a few days, sent a new song, and everyone was like, seriously? Seriously. So, yeah. Belarus is out. That song will not be at Eurovision, so it makes it a little bit easier that to talk about it. And but yeah, they just didn't care. And I all keep saying, Galassi Smesta, the band that was chosen, they never represented Belarus for the most, right? They were representing the political party, the president at a contest, and it is just a very, very difficult topic. And I know a lot of you will agree with me, but as soon as this will go on demand, like basically on what for people to review, people will come out and will say, this is unfair because there have been so many political songs there before, and now this one is being kicked out. Like, it is, if you apply any sort of context and common sense, this is a very, very unique and different situation. You cannot compare it to anything else that we have basically seen at Eurovision before. This is, I mean, it is, if you look in a dictionary, the word propaganda, this should be posted as an example because it's a poster child of propaganda. And it is definitely, in my view, a very, very uncomfortable and terrible song, and I wholeheartedly support the EBU. I understand that they were in a tough position because they're trying to be like, we don't want politics at the contest. That's why they didn't like ban Belarus from taking part. But now they could disqualify them because they didn't follow the rules. So that is where we are. Belarus is out of Eurovision at least this year. Will there be long-term consequences? I don't know. Potentially. I don't think the EBU will go to the place where they would ban them for an extended period of time. They're just going to have the same rules next year. Send us a song that we can use. Otherwise, you can't take part. And we don't know where the country's going to be at in a year from now. So, but it is unfortunate that in the year 2021, this is what we have to deal with at Eurovision. But yeah, it is a very unique situation that we have not really had at Eurovision in a long time. Certainly not since I've been doing it. So this is what we have right now. This is probably the last time we're really going to talk about Belarus this year, unless something else happens, but I don't see that happening. What are your thoughts about this? At ESC United in the chat. Make sure to post it so I can see what you're saying. How long do you think Belarus will be gone from the contest? I don't think we'll see an entry from Belarus until the country is once again peaceful. I think if things stay as they are in Belarus, I can see Belarus trying to send similar music every single year and get disqualified until things change. And could it potentially end up in a Turkey-like situation where you just have a regime that will no longer take part in this because now they can play the victim card? Maybe. I mean, but they also know that this contest is very important to Belarus. They have very little international exposure. And having them being represented at a contest like that is very good promotion. So it is in their own best interest to take part in it. But that being said, they certainly don't want, they certainly have an agenda, and until things change, the music will always have a bitter taste in our mouths. Do you know what I mean? How would there is a state how is there a way I can send you the band's statements regarding the disqualification? You can send it, you can tweet it to us if you want to. You can send it to my Twitter, Matt, ESC United, and I can take a look at that. I'm so glad that they have been disqualified. The obvious way of politics is disgusting, in my opinion. Ryan, I can only echo what you are saying. That is exactly how I feel about that. And it is unfortunate because no one wants to lose a song, a country, right? And but it's not about that. This is bigger. And I know the Belarusian people are probably most of them are relieved. Certainly the Belarusian Eurovision fans are relieved about this. And I understand on the news, they're already playing the victim card and all of that. Yeah. The interesting part, a lot of people pointed out to me, is that with Belarus now out and Armenia is, I don't forget Armenia, but anyway, so that this first semi-final, because Belarus was set to perform in the first semi, has become maybe a little bit more competitive because Belarus guaranteed points to certain countries like Russia and Azerbaijan and even Ukraine to a certain extent, though not the juries but the televote. So so I think semi one has become actually a lot more competitive right now. So that I thought to me was very interesting. Some other things. If the song is DQ, will the jury and televote of Belarus still giving points in the semifinal and final if it's being? No. So Belarus has been completely removed from the contest. They will not be able to vote or take part in any shape or form. They can broadcast the contest. I don't think they'll do that, but there is no involvement whatsoever. The EBU will, it happened like once before, I think, in 2006. The last time Serbia and Montenegro were still a country. I'm like one country, I should say. They had some issues in the national final and decided to withdraw because of some of the drama. The EBU ultimately allowed them to vote in this show, but I don't think there's nothing that the EBU has said that they would do something similar. Just like think about Romania in 2016 when they were disqualified due to non-payment. So I think they will not be able to vote. So yes, thank you first of all, Falberg, for the super chat. I DM'd ESC United on Twitter the statement. Let me grab my phone real quick, see if I can find it. Now my phone's at 10%, so please don't die on me, phone. Okay. Oh, I got it. No, that's not it. That's somebody else. Refresh. Oh. I got it. Okay. That's how the group... Thank you for that, by the way. I'm going to read that to you. Who would have thought that our guys would have written one of the most popular songs of the year? We thought about that and we were right. We knew that... I'm sorry. I'm totally like... we knew that we will be popular in the internet, and it happened. Without any special performances, millions of views. We suspected we won't perform at Eurovision with the song I Will Teach You, but I think that Europe will be afraid of the song about rabbits. That's a shame on them. Friends from Eurovision Song Contest, it was a pleasure to watch all of this farce. We will continue what we do until you will reach bottom in your double standards. We will reveal the context of our correspondence. The heck? Okay, that was quite entertaining. So, yeah. So there you have it, the official statement of the band. Smesta something, Galasi Smesta. The name is just not very catchy. But thank you, I needed that laugh. That was quite entertaining. So yeah. This is where we're at. I mean, you can't make that stuff up, right? I mean, it's funny for us to laugh at it. I don't want to be disrespectful towards the people in Belarus because they are the one that get hit the most here, right? But I'm mostly just laughing at this whole ridiculousness that the statement is. I still feel horrible for the people that have to deal with the consequences of the election. But I try not to get too involved with the political aspect of it. But when you have circumstances like this, you just cannot pretend it didn't happen, right? So anyway, this is where we're at with that. Any final thoughts in the chat at ESC United, and then we'll go from there. Matt, what the actual Southampton? Is that a thing? What the actual Southampton? I shall use that terminology. My Eurovision says that's the definition of self-confidence. I don't know if I would use the term self-confidence. Maybe I would use the word arrogance. There's a fine line, and I think they're not just moved that line 15 times, they crossed it like, whew. It's come on, it's a little silly. But yeah, this is certainly a very unfortunate situation, the way it panned out, and this is not what the contest should be about, and unfortunately, it is what it is. So if you want to listen to the song, it is on YouTube. We also have, and this is the best way, our community on ESC United on the forum is always up to date. They post all the links, all the updates, so it's all in there, and they discuss it. I personally will not share it only because it just doesn't feel right. One of the most hilarious statements I've ever heard Connor saying. It is pretty hilarious, but then again, I lived in the United States and I've seen a lot of hilarious statements over the last 4 years. But I'll leave it at that. How would you rate Belarus 2010 Butterflies as an entry? Didn't like that one at all. So I would rate it fairly low, to be honest. But in all honesty, Belarus itself hasn't had a whole lot of music that I really, really appreciated. It's just not, the music that they send feels soulless to me, except one big exception, and that is 2017. Navi Band, that was 2017, right? That was the best entry ever because it was genuine. It didn't try hard. It was just a genuine song by two genuine singers, and boy was that awesome. It was absolutely in my top 10, the only time Belarus made it into my top 10. And but other than that, that is basically what it is. So that is Belarus. I'm so glad we can finally move on from that. We'll see what the future holds in store for the country, but for now we are done. So, have you paid attention to some of the other news out there? Well, let me tell you, we have all the 39 songs yet, but although we had a major update in Israel, as you know, Set Me Free is a song that Eden Alain will perform in Rotterdam after like a very interesting selection process, and the song had like a lukewarm response overall. So the team certainly was like, okay, we got to do something about it. So a revamp was put forward. It is now available for your viewing and listening pleasures, and I hope you're gonna like it. It certainly is a very fun video. Overall, the song itself, to me, is darker, and the bass is so much more loud and more prominent. And one of the big changes, obviously, is the very high note at the end. It really showcases Eden's vocal capabilities. As a matter of fact, she's singing in a B6 note from what I'm hearing. And I have to double check that claim, but people are saying that this is the highest note that has ever been performed at Eurovision. Before that, it was actually Australia 2019, Zero Gravity, and La Forza Estonia 2018, and she is trying to beat that. That would be interesting. Another big change is, the key change that happened at the end of the song. I think the last chorus, that one has been removed apparently, and I didn't even realize that. A lot of people criticized that part, said it was unnecessary and it was distracting, so they got rid of it. And whether or not you agree with that decision, I do applaud the people in charge. They are paying attention to what we're saying and what you are saying. So keep that in mind. Constructive criticism is good. Whiny criticism is useless. So try to come up with stuff that is helpful to the team should they decide to do a revamp. So the song is out. It's on Eurovision's YouTube page. Check it out. I know what's going to happen next. You're going to ask, what do you think about the song? So I will say the original "Set Me Free" to me was it was fine. It was kind of unremarkable. It's sad because it is such a great singer, and Fika Libby was in my top 10 last year, and Set Me Free was a little bit just safe, and it is just doesn't take you to places. I do think, but it wasn't like a horrible song. It was just fine. Set Me Free's revamp certainly improved it a lot. So I do think they got the most out of it. They added, a lot more beat. I find a little bit more ethnic than the original one. That is great. And of course, Eden's voice really shines here because Set Me Free, the original version, had none of that. And I love that. I think that'll certainly could potentially give a lot of jury boost there. So I haven't done like a ranking from first to last place kind of thing, but I would think it probably passes maybe a few songs right now. It certainly hasn't gotten a lot more fun and interesting to me. Now there are already a lot of good bangers this year in the running. This year is the year of bangers. Not that we don't have good ballads, but we do have a lot of fun entries. So I don't know if it's gonna like climb up that much. I don't know. I need to do a ranking. But yeah, so this is, check it out. I like what they've done. It is certainly a significant improvement, and I always want Israel to do well at the contest because they are passionate about it. I mean, they really, really take it seriously, and I have nothing love for them. Tel Aviv, which is now my most recent Eurovision, was so amazing meeting the people there, and I cannot help but always, and that's the thing. I mean, even if I wouldn't like the song, which I do, um, I would still root for them. I never root against a country. Why would I? Right? So make sure to check out Israel. What do you guys think? At ESC United in the chat, I will read some of your comments. In my opinion, the revamp improved my opinion a lot. Bass, beat, and pitch are all that matter in my rankings, and that's in my top 10 now. Well, I mean, I think the people in charge are very happy to hear that this has now moved into your top 10. That is, certainly a good thing. Of course, we have to wait. We did our rank, every week, ESC United viewers and readers can vote for their favorite top 10, and we put our official ranking, our official top 39 ranking. I'm trying to remember at the top of my head exactly where Israel was, but they were like in maybe 33rd place out of 39 songs. So maybe next week it'll climb up a little. Our new video will be up tonight. So I don't know if there was enough time to have a major impact on it. But yeah, this is where we're at right now. And we have to wait and see how that's going to go. Peo says it was growing off of me, but now it's just nice and fresh for me. That is good, Peo. Keep in mind, of course, we here, the Eurovision nerds. I'm allowed to call you nerds. I'm calling myself a nerd. If you don't like being called a nerd, then I'm not talking to you. But I'm a Eurovision nerd, proud about it. We listen to the songs a Brazilian times before Eurovision, so sometimes we get tired of songs. Obviously, 99.9% of the people don't do that, so that would not be really a factor. So, but I hear what you're saying. Just for selfish reasons, it's nice to get like a new, refreshed version of a song. So I totally get it. Ryan Atherton is saying, in my opinion, I like it, but it feels too much like a remix, so I like the original better. And that's a very good point. I agree with you, as it sounds like a remix, and I don't know if in a normal year this song would have worked, because there's a lot of computerized vocals in there, and this year, hopefully, although I'm not sure, only this year we're supposed to have backup tracks. Now, you can actually have no backup singers, you can use the track. So you can actually do that, because you cannot really recreate that with live vocals. So it's the right year to send a song like that. Although we can go into this and the whole thing, like I'm pretty sure now the EBU wants to keep backup singers away for the rest of time. But that is just my personal opinion. And we can go into that at the very end of the video. So yes, so make sure to check it out. At least you have a new song. That is kind of cool. I'm always excited about that. Any kind of, we're in that slum right now in between. Of course, there's still news happening. Yeah. What else has happened, by the way, in the news? Okay, let's talk about me. Not me personally, but my country. We talked about it before. The American Song Contest. Let's backtrack. So Christa Bjorkman, he was, until actually just a month ago, less than a month ago, the executive supervisor for Melody Festival and the Swedish national final for many, many, many moons. And he now retired, but over the past few years, he has been working hard with American broadcasters and lawyers to create the first American song contest. And if we can believe his words, and I don't see that why he would lie about it, we are getting a little closer. He did an interview with the Eurotrip podcast. He gave us a few more updates on this, and everything is still being finalized. But he said they made a lot of progress, and they believe that the contest will debut next year in 2022. They have been talking initially that it would be this year, but again, things always get delayed. Plus, with COVID, I don't think this was necessarily a pressing matter. But what he said, basically, it's moving closer and closer as we speak. We have agreed on a lot of things, almost everything, and the last little details will be put into writing by Monday, but that was a few days ago, so maybe earlier this week. There are still all the details that have to materialize out of this. And yes, they've been talking about it for years, but it seems as we're slowly creeping closer and closer to a potential contest. And at least if we can believe Christian Bjorkman, he says he's very confident it will. He said it will happen. I'm very sure now. We have a pandemic. There are things that can happen that we can't foresee. But if things develop the way they are right now, it should be on the air next year. Now, the question is, what is American Song Contest going to look like? Is it going to be Eurovision in a, like just with American version? A simplified version is yes. Christa Bjorkman said basically it is a mix between Melodifestivalen and Eurovision. And let me read that statement, actually, what he said. He said, it will be a mix of Melodifestivalen and Eurovision because the qualification period is probably something like 5 weeks. And to cover all of the states, and that will be very similar to what we do here in Sweden. Like you have the semifinals, right? Then it goes into a Eurovision mode, which is 2 semifinals and a final. And those will be upscaled looks-wise. So the regional semifinals will be a little less glamorous, I guess, the way I interpret it. And then we're moving on to the semifinal stages and all of that. And then we'll have eventually a winner. Now, there has been a lot of talk, like who's going to host it, what city, and all of that stuff. We don't even know what broadcaster is going to be in charge. So there are so many different things that still need to be discussed. I mean, this is a huge project, and now that Christian Bjorkman is no longer worried or has to worry about Melodifestivalen, he can put all of his energy into this project. But apparently, some of the cities that are currently under discussion, which I'm very happy to hear, are Las Vegas in Nevada, and I live in Southern California, so Vegas is a 3-hour drive from my place. So I'm like, hell to the yeah, let's do Vegas. I go there all the time. Well, not right now because COVID, but other than that, I usually go there. And another one would be like Orlando, which I lived in Orlando for 10 years. It's my favorite city in America, so I'd love to go back. So I would certainly be stoked about that. So this is what we have in terms of the updates with that. I'm sure we get more updates over the next months to come. Keep in mind, and that is always a very important disclaimer, things can change, things can get canceled or delayed. So, but you can only talk about what's happening right now. And I know people are skeptical. People are hesitant to believe the news because remember how often we talked about that Asia Vision contest and then it's been delayed and now it's on infinite hiatus and all of that. So I get it. I'm in a similar boat here. But the fact that we have actual people like Christa Bjorkman talk about it and being actively involved, you could put a lot more credence and stock into this. And I think we should all be quite excited if you're in favor of the contest, of course. So yes, this is where we are at with the United States and Eurovision. I know one thing was kind of disheartening when it first was announced that they were working on that. So many people were against it. We don't want America in Eurovision. Like, they're not in Eurovision. Wouldn't you want more exposure? Like, you were very much in favor of an Asia version of it, but you're against the America version of it. Let them have their own contest. Would you rather have America at Eurovision? I vote no. A big no from me. So let them have their own contest. More music for us. Y'all can be excited having not just one contest a year, but maybe 2. Hello. Now, I'm always worried like how Americans are just so different. I don't know. There's some states have a certain pride to them, others have a different attitude. So I don't know how this would really come across here, but you don't know until you try, in my view. So I am certainly open to it. I'm hopeful, and I hope they're going to do it more than once because things need time to progress, evolve, and people understand. Eurovision has been around for so long. Everyone in Europe, hardly anyone in the community here was alive when there was no Eurovision, right? I mean, it was 65 years ago when Eurovision first started. So most of us are under the age of 65, I would assume. And even though they're over, they probably don't remember the year 1956. So we all are familiar. We grew up with it. It is part of our culture. This certainly is not part of American culture. So it is certainly going to be interesting. So, any thoughts from you about American Song Contest at ESC United in the chat? Steven is saying, how will they keep people from just moving to different states to compete for them? Logistics, I don't know how they're going to all pull that off. It sounds, well, they're going to have regional stuff, so I would assume that's going to be more local, but you also need to remember there's a difference between California, who has like 40 million people, and then Wyoming, and they have like less than a million people, I think. So in Eurovision, they have also countries with different population wise. So I don't know if they're going to make it like 3 acts from each state, or they're going to have it more of a proportionate approach. I don't know. So there are a lot of things that are still question marks. So I don't know. We just have to wait and see for the information that being passed on. Paul is saying Australia get invited as associate. America should be given the same courtesy. There is love for the event in the US. Paul, so I talked about before, Australia is a different animal. In my view, I understand what you're saying. Australia has been watching the contest since the early 80s, right? They've been broadcasting it. They have, both America and Australia have European roots for the most part. Not all, but you know what I mean. And a lot of Americans, at least. So I understand that part, but I do feel as you need to have some sort of dedication and involvement in the contest before you can just join. And America and most people have never heard of it. There's a little bit more of a niche market here out there now over the past few years since I started doing it on like Logo Network, which then stopped, and now they put the 2019 contest on Netflix, and then of course we had the Eurovision movie, so there's a little bit more of like awareness of it, but don't fool yourself or kid yourself. There is very little knowledge of the contest here in the US, and I don't see us just going in there walls and balls there just because we're America, USA. No, I don't think that's right, because we also I can say that because I'm American, we're sore losers, and if we lose to Lithuania, I just picked a random country that people probably never heard of here, they would be like, what the hell, right? So I think this, you can't, I would never say never. I will say that, but not anytime soon. So Ryan is saying, I'm really excited for this new contest, but I don't want similar songs in more heavily funded states doing well. I would hope it will be equal. Well, I think everyone should have a similar budget. But you have the same issue at Eurovision as well, right? The BBC, even though they don't do it well, or Russia, let's say they do it pretty well, they know how to stage a song, and with a lot of money. Lithuania, am I keeping doing Lithuania? Their budget is a little different, and they cannot do a whole lot, right? So we have that same issue, but I think there should be a fair playing field to a certain extent. But yeah. Also, you cannot disadvantage a state that has like 40 million people or 30 million people and have less opportunity for them, when a small state that has like hardly anyone in there gets all this extra representation. So it's a little difficult. So yeah, so that is what we asked. Would there be a big five? Peo saying, I doubt it, because it's not going to be here like where each state is going to be funding the contest. Keep in mind the reason why we have a big five. The big reason is ka-ching, right? Money, money, money. Of course, there are other factors that they say, if the big five would be all eliminated from in the semis, who would watch the contest? A lot of the viewing figures come from the Big Five countries. So and that ultimately relates in viewing and sponsorship and and advertisement. So it's a little different there. I don't think there will be a Big Five, though. So, and Uritauli is raising. Unfortunately, I can't recall Lithuania ever doing amazing staging. 2002 probably having the worst staging of the 2000s, and that's probably why I keep going back to Uritauli. Lithuania, they often say the artists we have virtually zero budget. When you think back about Lithuanian staging, you don't see props, you don't see high tech stuff out there, you don't see even a whole lot of pyros. They heavily rely on their stage persona, their vocals, and just the song on its own merit, right? While you see other countries go like all out, and that is a factor. So that's why I keep using, because Lithuania is like a poster child for that, for sure. Sean is saying, I feel the diversity wouldn't be there. I also think Simon Cowell would host it. This would morph into The Voice, and which sucks. So I don't think Simon Cowell would be involved in that. Simon Cowell is no longer relevant here in the United States for the most part. He's no longer on American Idol. The Voice he's not on. You know, all these shows, he is not longer like really a big name here in the US. That time's over. That time has passed. So I wouldn't worry about that. I think you make a good point about diversity. I don't know what they're going to do. I'm worried that all the southern states will give us country music. I don't know. But it's too early to say. I think we just need to wait. It's speculating, you know, so this is certainly still up in the air. Which should be interesting to see if states would be able to bring some state-specific elements to the music, if there is such a thing. I mean, yeah, I mean, to a certain extent there's, but what would California do? We would have Katy Perry sing about California girls, you know, so that is our culture. We can sing about Beverly Hills, the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and the Queen Mary boat. So yeah, that's us. I'm sure, but it's hard for me. I cannot even think about, because yes, we have different cultures in America as well, because it's such a big country. But in some ways we're not that different. In other ways we are. It is very hard to wrap my brain around this, actually. So yeah, but let's just see how that's all going to pan out. I'm excited about it. If this were to, at least we can say we tried, right? And if it doesn't work out, it was worth a shot. So I'm glad that they're trying it. Let's go for some other, just real quick, no big news. Next week we should hear the running order of the two semifinals. Apparently the broadcaster and the team, they're like 8 people, they have already submitted to the EBU and the not the delegation, the reference group, and they're awaiting final approval. Assuming that's going to happen, we should have the running order of the two semis sometime next week, which is kind of in line with the timing that we've seen in the past. So look out for that. Another thing that I'm really excited about is the pre-party in Spain. Mark your calendars, April 24th. We're not going to have a situation where we can all gather and party. It will be a complete and free online event on YouTube where a bunch of acts will perform their song, and from their local home studio, whatever they may do. We don't know who's going to take part yet. That will be all determined over the next few weeks. But we're less than a month away from that event, so something to look forward to. Make sure you are around, because it'll be a lot of fun. What else do we have open happening here? We all know that Florida has every intent to go to Eurovision. Those who know Florida, most of you would think a famous rapper here in the United States. My favorite rapper personally. He was, he's featured in Sinheat's song for San Marino, Adrenalina, and he was invited to be part of the performance, and he would love to go. And he did an interview with BBC and talked about, even though he has never heard of this contest before, he loved the energy of the song and he loved the idea of the contest. And apparently he has a lot of fans in San Marino. Who would have known? San Marino loves Florida. So it would be interesting. I would give him a lot of credit because he's a big star, right? Even though he has not like any major hits lately, he is doing a lot of work and it has a big name. So going for all the hassle of, the COVID requirements and safety things, he's willing to do all of that. And he's a very nice guy, actually. I'm not a big celebrity person. Like, I don't necessarily care for like who they are and all that stuff, but Florida comes across as a pretty cool dude. I really like him, actually. So hopefully that will happen as well. What else is? Oh yes, go to escunited.com, by the way, or on our YouTube channel. We post links as well here if you're subscribed. Our big poll is open. What is the best song of Eurovision 2021? It is now your call to decide. It's different from the ranking that we do every week. This is just the big poll of the year, and we would love to hear from you. So go to escunited.com. It was just posted yesterday, and we would love to see your vote. Help your favorite. That is all I am saying. So those are the news that I have for the week, and now we have a few minutes, and let's do a open Q&A session. All you have to do is post your question at ESC United in the chat so I can see them, and I will do my best to answer them. Thank you for the super chat so far and all of your support. It is very much appreciated. Let's see some questions here. Falborg is saying, do you think there would be neighbor voting in the American Song Contest? Let me actually have a sip of water real quick. I've been talking for God knows how long. And potentially, I think there could be. But here's the thing. Yeah, I don't know. If you think about like American Idol, for the longest time, mostly young, cute guys, white guys with a guitar win American Idol because they come from southern states, and the southern states often support their homeboy, and that's just how American Idol kind of turned out to be. California doesn't really have, for instance, that kind of mentality because it's such a big state and our culture is so different. If someone says, oh look, there's a singer on American Idol or The Voice, he's from California, right? So it's a little different. So could there, I think that remains to be seen. I could see that happening, but it's hard to say. It's very hard to say. It's a good question, though. I never thought of it that way. Do you think Lithuania can win? Stephen Kendall is saying. I have Lithuania as a, not underdog maybe, but certainly as a dark horse as well. I do think that Lithuania has a lot of going for it. I don't know, the jury's how, if they're going to put it in the top 3 or 4, but maybe they'll see something. But this could go really big. I think Lithuania has certainly the best chance of getting the best results ever at the contest. Am I counting them out as a winner? No, I'm not. I am not. So, what songs do you think will qualify? Sean Keeney saying, I don't know yet. I actually will do a video about that and our predictions, so stay tuned for that. Now that we know we're only going to have 39 songs, we've been waiting for the 40th song. Now that this is a, we can finally start working on all of that. So over the next week or two, you'll see a lot of videos coming your way. So hang on tight. What do you think about the American Song Contest only having 10 finalists? So is that something that has been said it's going to be the case, or is it just a suggestion that you have? I don't know. But they make it, that's maybe where the Melodifestivalen aspect comes into play again, because it's not completely Eurovision, it's just like a hybrid between those two. So I can see that actually working. So again, I will withhold final judgment because I don't want to just apply complete Eurovision logic here, because we don't want to have a complete copycat, nor would it work, because we're not talking different countries, we're talking different states. But I do think that it's different. One of the producers said that was in an interview, Sal was saying, okay, then thank you for clarifying that. So we shall see about that. So I appreciate the additional context there. Do you know anything about the rehearsal and the live on tapes recording of Eurovision 21? So depending on what you mean by that, so about 75 to 80% of the countries have already recorded their backup performances. So we still got a few countries left to still have to record it. So that doesn't mean they will be used. This is just in the worst case scenario, if nobody can travel to Rotterdam, that they have those ready. So I know that that's in the works. Everyone has to do it. Whether or not we're going to use them, that is a different story. The live on tapes recording, you say, okay, that it is. In terms of rehearsals, if we're going to have this scenario B, which is the one that we're aiming for and more likely than not will happen, and not even referring to like any kind of audience situation, but then they will have, just like the good old-fashioned days, 2 weeks of rehearsals. And they'll be on stage rehearsing to the best of their abilities. And we will be there, either remotely or in person part of the press. So then we'll have 2 weeks just like we've always had it. If we're gonna have a only backup performance kind of Eurovision, so scenario D, we will not have the first week of rehearsals because no one will have to rehearse a performance anymore. They have already been recorded. So most likely all we'll have is 1 week of rehearsals, and that is mostly just dress rehearsals. Because they have to figure out the flow of the show, and the press will still be able to see all of that, and we're still going to report on it. So we're either going to have 1 or 2 weeks of rehearsals. So that is the point. They said they want. They said they want 5 regionals with 4 moving forward from each, then 2 semifinals of each with 5 moving forward into a final of 10. That is true. I read that as well, but it still has not been all finalized. So this is all subject to change. This is still about American Song Contest, just so you know what we are talking about. Do you think Australia will travel given the differences in COVID situation and the amount of travel she will need to do? Now, Australia's COVID numbers are super low because, they're an island, so they don't have anyone there, which is good. So in terms of travel, I know that the EBU and the people in charge said that every single delegation, every single country has all the intent of being there. So we do know that Australia wants to be in Rotterdam. Could there be circumstances that could prevent that from happening? Potentially, yes, but their intent is to go, and that is very important. If that were to happen, and if they were going, of course, they will be tested when they leave, and they will be tested basically on a daily basis to make sure that they do not contract the virus. And if they, for some reason, get COVID, they would be quarantined. They would not be allowed to go back to Australia until that all has been passed. I don't think Australia is really far ahead when it comes to vaccinations. So that is something to take into consideration as well. So, yeah. And Adrian is saying, I think Montaigne said she's going. Yes, absolutely. Montaigne said she wants to go. Of course, there could be something, if we don't know. The thing about this whole situation is all the uncertainty. Is it going to happen or not? And there's certain things that are out of control. Even if every single person said, we want to go, the Dutch government could be like, no one's allowed to come. That could be a ruling, right? Because we're going through, or not we, but Europe is going through a third wave right now. And that could be throwing a wrench into the plans, right? So they're still trying everything, and it's more likely than not that we'll have a scenario B situation, but there's always the possibility of that not happening. Do you think that rehearsals should be open up to the public as well as the press? I understand why they don't allow this. Previously, in previous years, how would you do that? You can just walk in? No. So in previous years, like until like 2016 or 17, trying to remember, the rehearsals were allowed to be recorded and then shown to the public. So it was basically open. But starting 4 or 5 years ago, we were no longer allowed, the press that is, to record or tape any of the rehearsals. There were like rules where you can like record up to 3 minutes between all 40 performances or something like that. I don't remember the exact guidelines. So there's a reason. They don't want all that material out there because, let's be real, any sort of material out there can have an impact on the betting odds and the excitement and the press and the promotional aspect of it, and it's just becoming a very touchy subject. So they closed it down for the most part. As a matter of fact, they want to close it down even more. It's less likely to be opening up. They keep closing it down. So for instance, they were considering that the first rehearsal, each country has, I think, 30 minutes to rehearse, right? The first round of rehearsals. And usually I get like 3 run-throughs during that 3 minutes, sometimes 4 if they're fast. So the very first run-through of rehearsals, they are considering not making them public at all. Like the press will not be allowed to see it, just to give the artist time to get comfortable with the stage and just a feel of it. So they even want to shut out the press on that. Whether or not that's going to be implemented, that remains to be seen. But yeah, the point is it's going to be less open rather than more open. Okay, so let's see here. Could some singers benefit of their last year's song? The Roop, Gaknamid, or do you think at least public won't be influenced? If you mean as in like people think like, oh, this is a group I really liked The Fire last year, I'm going to vote for them. No. Again, it goes back to 99% of the viewers don't know what happened. What songs were selected? We didn't even have a Eurovision last year, so they wouldn't even know the songs. They get like 2 hot seconds of the clips during the special show last year, the celebratory show, but no one would remember that, right? So no, it's not going to have any impact whatsoever. No, it's like a clean slate. Will we get to see the live Rotterdam, the live recordings if the contest happens normally in Rotterdam? Are countries able to do changes on the stage of Ahoy Arena after the live recordings? So, yes. So, to my understanding, is there are some minor tweaks allowed, just like even during rehearsals, you can do minor tweaks. The overall idea and flow of the performances kind of stay the same, but you're allowed to make adjustments. They all have to be approved by the EBU and the people in charge, because any tiny little change, even just looking into a different camera, requires more different camera work, a different editor. The editors have to be like, okay, da 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 da. Even a different dress. The lighting's going to be different. So anything like that, every little thing is such a big deal in a production like that. So it is fascinating to me. So, but there could be changes. Thank you, Eurotowley, for the super chat and supporting the channel. Matt, of all the ESC you've been to, which was the worst organization-wise and which was the best? I always am uncomfortable doing the worst. Let's start with the best. I will say that Sweden 2016 was amazing. That one was almost flawless, except the press center was annoying. I mean, the press center was fine, but it was in a hockey ring, and it was so hard to get to because it was the steps going down the and everyone's like it took like 5 minutes or 3 minutes just to get to the press center from upstairs, and those stairs were steep, so nobody wanted to go to the bathroom because we're upstairs. Like, oh, I have to pee, but I don't want to go back up there. But other than that, it was a great organization. I do think that Vienna 2015, they did an amazing job. The press center, the flow of things were fantastic. Fantastic. I think the messiest one, Portugal, was a little bumpy. I think Ukraine was, everything was last minute. Everything was like, oh my God, security, and they didn't know how to read the crowd and the audience. It was a little more messy. So I would probably say Ukraine was probably the messiest one. I still had a good time though, so it's not the end of the world. But yeah, that was definitely probably the one. But each country or each Eurovision had its pros and cons. Like, I remember Copenhagen. That arena was so far out. Like, it took like in the bus. It took like an hour just to get there, and I was not far away, but it was on a stupid island, the hangar, and like, oh, you had to leave so early, and then if you want to go to Euro Club, you have to drive for an hour, and then just to get on another bus is like, oh, logistically it was a nightmare. And if you want to just leave to grab lunch, you couldn't go anywhere because you were in the middle of nowhere. You had to rely on the little kiosk that they had in the press center because you're not allowed to bring in food. Ugh. So yeah, so every one of them had different kind of experiences, but you take the good with the bad. Anyways, who do you think would be an upset non-qualifier? Upset non-qualifier? Any song that is super popular. You know what I mean? Any song that is a fan favorite. Switzerland would be an upset non-qualifier. I'm always worried that Switzerland is a Eurovision fan favorite, but does not translate well on the Eurovision stage to the public. And not because I don't like the song. I think it's a fantastic song. It's just a kind of song like I'm nervous about Switzerland, that it may not click as much with the average person than with the Eurovision person. So that would be an upset one, but it's just on my mind, and I can't forget about the potential flop there. At least my view. So many. I'm trying to see. There's so many questions. At ESC United. Okay. Will you do a video on the new version of the Israel song? No, I've watched it. I do only reaction videos for the first time. Otherwise, I would, or like if it's something new and I've seen the video already, what am I going to do? I'm like, ooh, I'm so unexpected to see that happening. So no, I'm not going to just do reaction videos. I'm kind of glad that I'm done with the reaction phase. Now I can focus on more in-depth pieces and reaction reviews and that kind of stuff. I already have another video I'm working on hard right now. It's recorded. I'm in the editing process. That'll be out hopefully tomorrow. So it's a lot of work. So I will not react to that one because I've done that already to the song. Okay, so Adrian is saying Bjorkman recently said in an interview that everything in 2017 was so last minute and so close to not happening. The original producers got sacked by the government. Yes, it was a big mess. Everything was by the last minute, and even a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that you didn't see was already had to be fixed the next day. Well, like, little things. I remember, and this is just very superficial right now, but it always cracked me up. The very first night at Euro Club, they had all, there were not that many, it was huge. A few people were there the first week, not as many people were there, but there were a bunch of people. They had all these sexy dancers out there in wearing lingerie, like very revealing outfits, and we were like, oh, this is great. Except I don't think the crowd that you're catering to, those were all just women, right? So all the gay men in the crowds were like, I need a drink. So they went away the next day. That was kind of funny to me. Other things were like the security was a big issue. Like sometimes they wouldn't let press people into the Euro Club, and then they wouldn't let people with fan accreditation in. Like there were so many issues getting people into it. Security was very confused, even getting into the press center. There was issues as well. So yes, everything they had to learn on the go there. So it was a big mess, but it worked out in the end. So that was interesting. Are we going to watch live on tape regardless of what will happen with the contest? My Eurovision TV? I don't know. I could see the EBU releasing those videos after the contest. So I don't think they will certainly not release them before if we're going to have actual songs. But I could see them being put forward after the fact. So that's my guess. Nothing has been confirmed officially. But yeah. But that would be my guess, that we'll get them afterwards. Because, we don't want to have any kind of material out there. They're not even really allowed to take pictures of the performance. They have like one picture of like people standing together, be like, hi, or like from far, far away. But there is very little that's being revealed about the performances. So that is something else to keep in mind. So yes, that is basically what has happened. So we have to wait and see what's going to happen over the next week. You're asking, what is ESC United doing? Of course, we're going to have our panel come back in the near future in April. So stay tuned for that. We are also going to have a lot of other material coming up for you. I am recording, of course. I can give you already what I'm recording right now. I will do my 2020 versus 21 video, which I recorded. I just need to edit it. Which song do I like better, Albania 2020 or Albania 21, and then I'm counting it down, and then I'll figure out which one had the best year, which one's the better year. So that'll be out soon. I have another video that's coming out. Just to give you a teaser, it'll be about describe every Eurovision song this year in 3 words. So I have to think about that one. Yeah, that's not easy, but it's fun. Those kind of things will be coming your way. Of course, as pointed out, all of the reviews. So make sure to subscribe to our channel, otherwise you'll miss it. Or you always have to come here and look for it. So, yeah. Anyway, so I just want to thank you so much for watching. I hope I entertained you a little bit on your Saturday evening. It's Saturday morning for me here. It's now just past 11. So I will actually eat something now. So I will be back soon. Thank you again. We'll be certainly next week. Actually, it's very interesting. I'm going to be at a family's house, so hopefully the internet will be good for the live stream. So if it's choppy, don't hate me, but I'll do my best to make it work. So thank you for watching today's live stream and Mattitude. I will be back then. Have a good week. Have a good day.